Opening day is almost here. I'm so excited. I'm sure you're excited. And what that means is we're almost going to be back out in the field. We're just right there. And I was actually talking to CGA member Kevin Wright recently, and he said, Josh, I'm loving the Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy podcast. A great episode to do would be overheating. You know, with us getting into early season here, it's going to be hot. We're going to be hunting with our dogs, and that's just something we got to watch out for. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to release a special edition episode. So here we go. Thanks, Kevin, for the question, and let's dive in. That's what we're going to be covering today in this special edition episode of the Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy podcast. So before we dive in, I just want to say, if you're enjoying these podcasts, if you're getting value out of them, please like and subscribe and share. And more importantly, as we approach early season, if you've got a friend with a dog or you know someone that's going to be hunting with their dog, send them this episode. They will find it very valuable because the information we're going to talk about is how to help prevent your dog from overheating. So some of the core things we're going to be covering are signs to look out for that are showing, hey, these are the signs that show your dog is overheating. We're also going to talk about, okay, if your dog is starting to overheat, what can you do about it? And then most importantly, we're going to talk about prevention. So let's dive in. So what are some signs that you can look out for that really are going to show you that your dog is potentially overheating or worse, facing heat stroke or heat exhaustion? One of the first things that I want to look out for and that I would encourage you to look out for is excessive panting. Now, when we're talking about hunting dogs, panting is just a normal thing. They're excited, especially when we're going hunting. Like, they're going to be panting. And frankly, in early season and on opening day here for early teal, early goose, dove season, they're going to be hot. They're going to be panting. But there's a difference between panting and then excessive panting. What you'll notice is that just normal excited panting, their tongue is, just kind of hanging out there, not too much. But when they are excessively panting, their tongue is going to be coming out way further. It's going to start kind of shifting colors over than what it would normally be. It might be a little more red, might be a little more pink depending on the dog. And that's just something that is kind of one of the first indications. Also, if your dog starts to slow down when they're panting excessively and they're just sounding very winded, like they're breathing super heavily, that's a case like, okay, my dog is tired. That's something to look out for. Another thing to look out for is their eyes will become swollen. And then finally, one of the big ones to watch out for, and this one's very serious, is lethargy. So there's a difference between lethargy or being lethargic and slowing down. Slowing down just obviously means they're an athlete. They're getting a little bit tired. They're still going hard though. Lethargy would be where they're just wobbling around. They're getting dizzy a little bit. That's definitely a major sign that you got to be doing something very quick to help with your dog. And actually, speaking of that, I want to share Cornerstone member Marty Haynes' story. I'm not going to get the details exactly right. It's been a little bit since I've heard this story, but his dog Coda experienced a lot of this. I don't remember if it was full-on heat stroke or not, but his dog fortunately did survive. And Coda is still performing, still doing stuff, but has really not, from my understanding from what Marty has told me, has not been the same ever since. And maybe we'll have him on our podcast at some point to talk about this, but for now, I'll go ahead and tell you. But basically, what happened was his dog overheated. I don't remember if he was hunting or if he was training, but his dog just quickly got overheated and then started getting lethargic and running into all those issues. And then I believe he even said was peeing blood, and he got some veterinary care very quickly, and that I believe attributed to helping the dog survive. The dog did survive; it has recovered, but hasn't been the same since, and is actually more sensitive to the heat now. So Marty's also very cautious now when it comes to the heat and watching out for it, as we all should be. You don't want to play with heat exhaustion or heat stroke or any of that with our dogs. You want to help take care of them. But those are some of the signs to look out for, specifically the panting, the swollen eyes, the lethargy, all of that. That's just something to look out for. And really, here's the deal. You know your dog. So as you pay attention, you're going to know if your dog starts to seem off. Just pay close attention to them. If they're starting to look a little bit off, they're looking like something's a little off kilter, go with your gut on that. Like, let's prevent, let's take care of our dogs. Let's make sure they're safe. But what happens if you just find yourself in the situation? And we'll talk about prevention in a minute, but what if you do find yourself in the situation? Let's dive in. One of the first things that you can do if you find your dog in this situation is, depending on the severity, let's say it's not too severe, maybe it's just the excessive panting, go ahead and move your dog to shade, move your dog to a cooler location, and then I would encourage you to have alcohol wipes to wipe off their dog, their pads. My vet told me about that, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense as he explained it to me. That's going to be actually one of the fastest ways to cool your dog off, is wiping off all their pads with alcohol wipes. If it is more severe and it's actually looking like there's an issue, just excessive panting could mean like everything's fine. But if your dog's starting to like see other signs, then that's a case where you may want to call the vet. And really, if your dog's excessively panting, you may want to call your vet as well. In fact, let me just go ahead and say, I'm going to default all this to talk to your vet at some point. If you're concerned, trust your gut. You've got to protect your dog. And if you do find yourself in a situation that your dog is overheating, you want to do something quickly to help your dog. That way you can have the best odds of helping your dog stay safe and keep your dog hunting and having a good time. I think it's important not to just say what to do, and it is important to move your dog to shade, move them to a cool area, call your vet if it's showing some serious signs. But also let's talk about what not to do, and that would be really getting your dog in the water unless you're actually hunting early goose and the dog is swimming. Odds are the water's not going to cool the dog off. Or if you're hunting near a colder air, like cold stream, whatever it may be, maybe it's a spring that's got some cold water, but it's hot outside, I would be very careful about that too. Like, for example, putting your dog in a cooler of ice or cold water. That can actually cause your dog to go into shock, which is no bueno. That's not good. So don't do that. You kind of want to stick more to the side of gradually cooling your dog off. That really leads us to the most important thing, and that's prevention. So how do you prevent your dog from heat exhaustion and getting overheated? Well, first up is hydration. And just like cooling your dog off if they do get overheated, this is a gradual thing. This isn't something that you want to do actually on the day of the hunt, during the hunt. This is something that you want to think about, a week in advance, or a few days at least in advance. Make sure that you're getting your dog extra water as much as they'll take without having a bathroom accident. And make sure that the dog is hydrated. Then actually on the day of the hunt or when you're actually training, another mistake that you can make would actually be letting them drink as much water as they want. Personally, what you want to do if you're in the field, or what I personally do, is I choose how much water they get, but I also just give it to them sparingly. So that means you may be cutting your dog off from letting them drink too much, but you're just going to keep giving them doses, so to speak, or servings of water throughout the day. This is going to help keep your dog cool. Just give them water throughout, and that's going to help your dog maintain their hydration level. Also, if your dog is dehydrated, I would not let them excessively drink. You, again, want to give it in small doses because if they drink too much at once after being, hot and running a lot, that can actually cause some serious issues as well, probably more harm than good. So just make sure to hydrate leading up the few days before the hunt, and then also hydrate during the hunt throughout, but just in small sparing amounts. That way you're delivering consistent water intake throughout the day versus just one lump sum at the end of the hunt or during the hunt. That's going to help your dog maintain that hydration balance to the best of their ability. Now, when you're going out hunting, the next thing I really would encourage you to do for prevention is find a cooler spot if you can. The shade, always be in the shade as much as you can. If not, if you're going to be in a blind, you're doing some goose hunting, see if you can kind of create a cool spot. Hopefully you've got the wind working like a crosswind instead of the wind at your back. Obviously for hunting, it would be nice if the wind was at our back because the birds are going to come straight in. But if you can get a crosswind where the wind is blowing on your dog, that can help a little bit. Even just a nice breeze really is going to go a long way. But shade, find some breeze if you can. And then also, if you need to, be at a place to where you can step away if you have to and get your dog to the truck, get them to AC, and just don't be afraid to even let them rest. They don't have to pick up every retrieve. So that's another thing you can do, is limit the number of retrieves they get based on how they're doing. Or you're reading their body language. Are they excessively panting? Are they looking good? They looking like they have energy? I know in the dove field, it can be so hot, specifically, especially if it's a low-cut dove field. I've been on some hot dove hunts, and I'll say one thing you may even want to consider is the timing of your hunt. Here in Alabama, our hunts are going to start typically around noon or 1. I have to look at the regulations, but it's normally going to be decently hot at that point. Actually, not the hottest part of the day. That 1 to 2, right about 3 is going to be the hottest part of the day for us. But the dove normally are not flying a lot right then. So for me, what I typically do on opening day is I'll just actually wait and go out if I can, and I'll take my dog out a little bit later. I'll go out there later in the day, 3:30, 4, and then I'll try to hunt closer to the evening because it's going to start cooling off. But it's really just about strategy. Okay, you're thinking about how can I keep my dog cool? How can I prevent them from overheating? And it comes down to just a few key small things and just being aware. I would say your biggest thing is being aware of the heat and your dog's condition. And that's going to help set y'all up for the best success, is being aware of that. One of the final things I'll say on this is just trust your gut. Look at the weather. If you're looking at the weather and it's going to be too hot, I know we want to take our dogs out. I know we want to do that. But in your gut, if you feel if it's iffy, it's never really worth the risk. You don't want your dog to overheat. That can kill your dog very quickly, especially if it just goes on too much. But also, you just don't want them to overheat. You want opening day to be a good experience, even especially if they haven't hunted a little bit, or maybe it's your dog's very first hunt. You really want it to be a great experience. So trust your gut overall and just pay close attention to the weather and really kind of get a feel for what is the day looking like. Is it going to be overcast? Is it going to be really hot? And here's the deal. The beautiful thing about early season is it's the beginning and there's many more hunts to come. So if you worst case scenario, leave your dog at home. Just make sure they're safe. Depending on the temperatures and the heat, make sure your dog is safe above all else. That's going to go a long way to helping you have a long hunting span with your dog and helping it have the best quality of life. Also, we wrote up a blog on this if you want to read a little bit more. It is in the description if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, or also if you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I hope it's got you thinking about things. Again, the biggest thing above all else is just be aware. Those are some things that you can do to prevent your dog from overheating, and be on the lookout for some of those signs of overheating as well, and stay safe out there and have a good hunt. Let me say this finally, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, and we would appreciate, and I would greatly appreciate, a like, a subscribe, a comment. Let me know if you've got questions, or if you have an overheating story, or if you have a situation where you felt like you prevented it well. Please put it in the comments. I would love to know and appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next episode.